Hi, in this video I will show you the easiest way to remove injectors in a BMW E61, what to do if problems appear during removal, why sealing the system makes sense, what not to do, and what you must never forget. If you want your car to get a second life and use almost no fuel, make sure to watch this material. Now, without any talking, I am getting to work. We will start from the very beginning, which means first I will partially disassemble the car and show you the easiest way to access the injectors so that the whole process is comfortable, possible, and safe. I'm starting with removing the plastic covers for the cabin filters. First, unclip the metal latch located right here and then turn the single screw that I've just highlighted on the screen. For this, you'll need a size 13 socket. The bolts are quite delicate, so you have to be careful not to break them. Remove the cover on the other side in exactly the same way. Then take off the seal that protects the interior from water. It's not screwed in, you just need to slide it off. Next, unscrew the bolts holding the lower cabin filter housing located right here. For this, you'll need a standard Phillips bit, a PZ2. Next, disconnect the plastic piece that connects both sides. You need to pull it toward yourself while standing on the right side of the car. Right after that, remove the plastic drain channels that seal the edges on both sides. This will give you space to take out the lower part of the cabin filter covers, which I'm removing on the screen now after unscrewing 2 additional plastic bolts with a 13mm socket, just like in the earlier step. Finally, remove the last 2 plastic covers on the right and left sides. After that, you can take off the engine support bar, which is held by 4 Torx T30 bolts. All of them are easy to reach and they come out very smoothly. Now I remove the 7 screws of the acoustic cover. All of them are located in the marked spots, and to get them out, you'll need a size 5 Allen bit. On some engine versions, these screws may be Torx 25 or 30 depending on the model. Once all the screws are out, I unscrew the oil filler cap and take off the cover. After putting the parts aside in a safe place, I screw the oil filler cap back on. At this moment, on the screen, you will see a bit more space here, where I was also replacing the air filter, but all of that is covered in a separate video. As for removing the injectors themselves, none of these components need to be removed. Continuing, the next stage is the second part of the disassembly. To remove the injectors, we have to unscrew the fuel lines, which are hidden under the intake manifold, so we will also remove it. So first, I loosen all the intake runner studs that connect to the engine block, but I don't remove them yet. This prevents unwanted stress on the rest of the assembly. Then, I do the same with the bolts hidden deeper inside. I loosen each one first, and only when the manifold separates evenly from the block will I remove all the bolts completely. Next, I disconnect the throttle body electrical connector. To do this easily, you need to press both sides inward. Then, it will slide out with almost no resistance. I continue with the EGR cooler hose area where there is a clamp band that I loosen. This allows us to remove the intake manifold together with the throttle body and the EGR valve without taking each part apart separately. Next, I disconnect the pressure sensor plug on the manifold. Right below it, there is another electrical connector hidden a bit deeper. I unplug that one as well. I also remove the bolt that holds the dipstick tube in place. On the right side, there is a vacuum hose that controls the swirl flaps in this model. I disconnect it by sliding the end off the fitting. Finally, I remove the clip from the main air duct and pull the duct off firmly in this direction so the whole assembly can be released. At this stage, the entire unit can be taken out of the car in one piece without any problem. At this stage, we're about halfway through the disassembly. Now I remove all the injector plugs along the entire rail. There are 6 of them in total, each with its own latch that's easy to access. In addition, the plastic panel is secured with 3 bolts, which you can undo using a size 5 socket. Make sure you remember the exact order of the plugs, because the sequence is very important and must not be mixed up. Once the bolts are removed and set aside safely, the entire panel can be shifted to the side so it doesn't get in the way. At this point, I'm loosening the first 3 fuel lines marked on the screen using an open-end wrench size 13. Once they're removed, set them aside carefully and keep them in the exact same order they were installed. This is the best approach for reassembly since these lines don't use any additional seals and are already perfectly matched to the spots where they were originally mounted. Swapping them around is a bad idea and could lead to fuel leaks, and that's something we definitely want to avoid. We're going to work on the injectors now, so I vacuumed the whole area to remove all the debris that has built up here over the years. This way, nothing falls into the engine because that could damage the valves, and we don't want that. After vacuuming the top side, I loosen the injector nuts, 12 in total. This is where the long sockets I mentioned earlier really help. They're simply more comfortable. Here we need 8 or 10 mm, depending on the car version. Many people are afraid of this stage, but it's not hard. I'll tell you step by step what to do and what not to do, so listen closely and everything will be fine. Now I insert a flathead screwdriver between the injector and the housing and gently pry it to check how tightly the injector is seated. In this case, they don't move at all. I don't know when they were last removed. That's why I use an old reliable trick, WD-40. I spray a little on each injector and wait a short moment to let it work. Note that I do not disconnect the connections between the injectors unless it is necessary. I would do this only if the entire injector needed to be replaced. This is because, after changing the order of the injectors, they must be coated again. We will only be sealing the entire system, so we can do it without disconnecting them, which ensures that the order will not change and recoating will not be necessary. They work fine, so there's no need for that. All I'll do is clean them, and everything will be great. I make a second check with the screwdriver to assess how difficult the task will be, and I can already tell it won't be too bad. I grab the injector connector with my fingers and move it slightly left and right to loosen it up. At some point, they start to rotate in the slot and become free. In the most difficult cases, you may need special pullers designed specifically for removing injectors, and this is a solution that will always work, but always try to be as gentle as possible. New original BMW injectors cost around $400 each, so it's easier to spend 20 extra minutes on this task instead of paying that much money. Once they're loose, I take them out and place them on a clean cloth or a piece of cardboard I prepared earlier. Well done, really great job. Moving to the other side of the car, I take out liqui moly injector cleaner, which I usually add to the fuel tank from time to time during refueling. This time, I soak a cotton cloth with it and carefully clean the injectors from the outside, removing all baked-on dirt and deposits. While this step doesn't affect the fuel mixture delivery, it has a big impact on the sealing of each injector once they are placed back into their seats. In addition, I will later pour a fresh can of the cleaner into the tank and let this strong solvent work inside the engine while driving with a warm engine. While cleaning, I also remove the old rubber seals from the injector shafts, which we will replace shortly with new ones. I also take off the copper washers located at the tips of the injectors. While replacing the rubber seals is not strictly necessary, believe me, it's worth doing, especially since they only cost a few dollars. However, replacing the copper washers is absolutely essential, as the old ones will never sit properly in the seat again. I install the new rubber seals on the injectors. These are original parts that cost me a total of $7 for the complete set, which makes them a very good investment and definitely not something worth saving on. As for the copper washers, in this case good quality replacements costing $6 in total, I place them into the channel using a screwdriver to carefully position them in the correct place. I place the previously cleaned injectors next to their slots and carefully install the injector holders in the correct orientation. They should be facing upward, just like in the picture. Then, I gently slide all the injectors into place, making sure they seat properly into the copper sealing washers we installed earlier. The only thing you really need to watch out for is not hitting the injector tip against the edge of the slot. We definitely don't want any damage or bending, since these are delicate and expensive components. After this step, the whole assembly is already looking neat. We're getting very close to finishing the reassembly. I start by hand threading all the injector stud nuts, 12 pieces, size 8 or 10 depending on your engine version. Then I tighten them symmetrically with a torque wrench at 7 nanometers. If you're holding a mouse right now, you can show your appreciation for my work by leaving a like under this video, and I'll be very grateful for it. Finally, I check if everything is firmly in place. In this case, everything looks good. If any injector feels loose, it most likely means you installed the injector holder the wrong way around and it didn't press the injector down properly. Next, I reinstall the fuel lines in their exact original positions. In the previous video, I mentioned setting them aside in the correct order, and now we're putting them back the same way. This step is very important as it greatly reduces the risk of fuel leaks, especially since we're reusing these lines without adding new seals. I tighten all the nuts with a 17 mm open-end wrench to 30 nanometers, without using any grease, paste, or engine oil. Everything should be dry. Next, I reconnect all the injector electrical plugs, making sure they are attached in the correct order. If you didn't disassemble the rail itself, everything will automatically line up properly. After that, I secure the 3 screws to the housing, located here. You'll need a size 5 socket, and according to service data, they should be tightened to 6 nanometers. Before I tighten the intake manifold back in place, I thoroughly clean the engine block at the gasket contact surface, and only then do I set the manifold onto its position. While everything is still loose, I first reconnect all the plugs and hoses at the back, because this gives me a bit more room for my hands. Then I reconnect all the components at the front, such as the electrical connectors, the EGR cooler hose, the throttle channel, and the oil dipstick bracket. At the end, I tighten the entire intake manifold evenly using a torque wrench, making sure not to exceed the maximum tightening torque, because these are delicate components and you must not overdo the amount of force. After this stage, assembling all the remaining components is just a formality, and you will handle it without any problem, so I will not record it. At the very end, we will check how the car runs and sounds after replacing the injector seals. I will start the car now. At this point, I invite you to watch the next material about a complete rebuild of the glow plug system in this armoured car.